like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, back again for another deep dive. And today we're looking at this crazy NBA Cup semifinal game between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. We've got articles, we've got post-game analysis, all kinds of stuff to unpack. And, you know, this game was wild for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
First off, obviously a trip to the final is on the line, so the pressure is through the roof. But then there's this other thing in the NBA Cup that's been impossible to ignore, the under. It's been hitting like crazy in these elimination games.
For real?
I read one article that compared it to Scrooge McDuck swimming in a vault full of cash. That's how much money people are making betting the under.
It's definitely a trend that nobody saw coming. Most people thought the Cup would be all about offense, high scores, but so far it's been a defensive slugfest.
Yeah, for sure. So before we really jump into all the details, let's just set the scene for everybody. OKC, they were led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Isaiah Hartenstein is having a year that, honestly, nobody predicted.
Right, what a season. And then, of course, there's Jalen Williams proving he's the real deal. On the Rockets side, you've got Amen Thompson, who's made a name for himself in this tournament, even though he's coming off the bench.
For sure.
Now, we know OKC ended up winning this one, but the story of how they got there is what's really interesting.
I think the game took a turn that nobody was expecting. Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been on fire this season, had a really rough first half.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Houston's defense just completely shut him down.
It was kind of shocking, honestly.
Oh.
The guy's averaging over 30 points a game. What do you think happened there? Did the Rockets just have the perfect game plan? Or was it something else?
Well, I think if you look at the stats, the Rockets were laser-focused on starving his drives to the basket. They basically forced him to take contested jumpers, which, you know, isn't really his strength.
Makes sense.
And they were doing a fantastic job of denying him the ball in the first place. It was a whole team effort. But Jalen Green, I think, deserves a lot of credit for the way he played defense on SGA.
So it wasn't just bad luck. It was a strategy. Absolutely, it was a strategy. And it worked, at least for a while.
Right, for a while.
Yeah.
But then the second half happened, and Gilgeous-Alexander just, I don't know, he flipped a switch or something.
It was like a whole different player.
He ended up with 32 points, leading the Thunder to a pretty convincing win.
Yeah, no question.
That second half was wild. Makes you realize that even when he's not playing his best, he can still just dominate.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't forget about the other guys who stepped up for OKC, like Jalen Williams. I mean, the guy's had 5 20-plus point games just this month.
Williams has been a bright spot all season for the Thunder. But the most surprising thing for me, honestly, has been Hartenstein's emergence. I mean, he went from a role player last year to a double-double machine.
Almost overnight, right?
Seriously. That's not just the numbers either. It's the consistency. You can almost guarantee a double-double from him every single night.
Have you noticed anything different in his game? Anything that explains this transformation?
Well, I think it's a few things, right? First, Chet Holmgren's still out, so Hartenstein's getting more minutes and more responsibility. He's obviously thriving in that bigger role.
Makes sense.
And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but he's playing with a lot more confidence, more aggression. He's attacking the offensive glass, finishing strong at the rim, even showing some playmaking skills.
So it's not just opportunity, it's him taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's what separates good players from great players.
Right.
Being able to step up when your number is called.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the other side of the court now. The Rockets had a different kind of night, right? They really struggled to score, especially considering how many offensive rebounds they were getting.
Yeah, that's where things get interesting. They pulled down 18 offensive boards, which is fantastic, but they only managed to score 19 points off of all those second chances.
Wow, that's not great.
A glaring inefficiency, right?
It suggests maybe it's not just about getting those rebounds, but what are they doing once they actually get the ball?
Exactly. And actually, one of the articles we have breaks this down even further. Kelly Iko, who covers the Rockets, he pointed out that their shot selection after offensive rebounds was often really rushed, bad decisions. They were forcing things instead of just working for a good look.
So you're saying it's not just bad luck or missed shots. There's a deeper issue here.
Right. It points to a bigger problem.
Yeah.
A lack of structure on offense, maybe a lack of execution.
Okay, so this isn't just a one-game thing. This is a pattern.
This has been a problem for them all season, honestly. They haven't been able to find consistent scoring outside of Jalen Green.
So the big question is, how do they fix it? We know they're a great defensive team, but is that enough to take them all the way? And then, what happens when Chet Holmgren comes back for OKC?
Yeah, those are the questions everybody's asking. The Rockets have a ton of potential, but they got to figure out this scoring thing if they want to be real contenders. And Chet Holmgren, I mean, who knows what kind of impact he'll have when he's back.
It's crazy to think that OKC is already this good, and they're not even at full strength yet. All right, before we move on, I want to talk about something else that stood out to me in this game. The crowd in Vegas. It was supposed to be a neutral site, but things got a little interesting. Is that fair to say?
Definitely not your typical neutral site vibe. There were a couple moments that really showed how much the crowd was into it.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, there's this little scuffle between Cason Wallace and Alperen Sengun. And after that, like, half the crowd started chanting for OKC. It was pretty obvious.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the Dillon Brooks factor. Every time he touched the ball, the whole arena just booed him.
Oh, I heard about that. That's got to be all the Lakers fans, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they haven't forgotten about what happened in the playoffs last night.
No way.
But it does make you think, can any venue really be neutral when you have fans traveling like that?
It's a good question. It adds another layer to these neutral site games.
Definitely. And you wonder how much the crowd actually affects the players.
You know, it's got to have some kind of impact. Okay, now let's get to the trend that's been dominating NBA Cup talk. The under. It seems like every single elimination game has been hitting the under.
It's crazy, right? Rockets Thunder, Hawks Bucks, Warriors Rockets, Knicks Hawks, Mavericks Thunder, all under.
Like clockwork. What's the deal? Is it just a coincidence or is something else going on?
I think it's a few things, you know. The stakes are higher in these elimination games, so the defense is tighter. And I think coaches are adapting. They're realizing that slowing the game down, grinding out possessions, that can be a winning strategy.
So it's not just random luck. It's the intensity, the playoff atmosphere.
Exactly. And the only game that went over, the Magic Bucks, that went hit in the final seconds.
It's like the under has this magical hold over the NBA Cup.
Maybe we should all start betting on it.
Hold on. Before we go full-on gambler, let's talk about some of the individual performances. We've talked about Gilgeous-Alexander and Hartenstein, but there were some other guys who deserve a shout-out.
Definitely. I mean, for the Rockets, Amen Thompson continued to play really well. He came off the bench and provided a spark, both on offense and defense. He's so athletic, and his defensive intensity is off the charts.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about him. It sounds like he's exceeding expectations, especially for a rookie.
Big time. And you know what's even more impressive? He's doing it all coming off the bench.
Yeah.
He shows he's mature, willing to do whatever the team needs.
Yeah, that's a great sign for the Rockets' future. They've got a young, talented core.
They do. But as we've been talking about, they've got to figure out how to turn that talent into consistent scoring.
Right. All right, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's just quickly recap what we've learned.
Sure. We've seen the under continue to dominate, the Thunder showing off their firepower, and the Rockets still struggling to put the ball in the basket.
And we've gotten a glimpse into what it's like at these neutral site games in Vegas, but there's more to come. In part 2, we'll dig even deeper into the Rockets' offensive struggles, look at what might happen when Chet Holmgren comes back, and we'll break down some of those coaching decisions that shaped this game.
We'll also share some of the lighter moments from the game, because even with all the intensity, there's always room for a little fun.
Exactly. Stay tuned.
It's funny, you know, when you think about how these two teams approached this game, OKC, they just seemed so calm, so comfortable, letting the game come to them, trusting their stars to make plays when it mattered most. And then you've got the Rockets. It's like they were pressing, almost desperate, trying to force things on offense.
Yeah, that's a good point. It makes sense when you consider how much they've struggled to score this season. It's like they're looking for a quick solution instead of, trusting the process.
Right. And actually, Ime Udoka's post-game comments kind of shed some light on this.
Yeah.
He said, and I'm quoting here, "Sometimes it comes down to making shots. Individuals got to shoot the ball a little bit better." So it sounds like he's putting the responsibility on the players to just, make more shots. But is it really that simple?
That's the question, isn't it? Shooting slumps happen to everyone. But when it's a whole team struggling to score, you got to wonder if there's something else going on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe shot selection, maybe not enough ball movement, or even just a lack of confidence. Whatever it is, the Rockets need to figure it out and fast, especially if they want to compete with the best teams in the league.
Speaking of competing with the best, how do you think the Rockets would match up against a team like the Bucks? If they had made it to the Cup final.
That's a tough one, especially with the way their offense has been looking. The Bucks have so much firepower, and they're a really good defensive team, too. The Rockets would have to find a way to slow down Giannis Antetokounmpo. And, well, that's not exactly an easy task.
It's like trying to stop a freight train.
Pretty much.
Redirect.
Okay, but let's not forget about the positives for the Rockets. They held OKC under 100 points. That's pretty impressive no matter how you look at it.
Oh, yeah. Their defense is definitely legit. They've got the length. They've got the athleticism. They can be super disruptive.
Absolutely. But as we've been talking about, you can't win championships with defense alone. You need to be able to score points, too.
It's all about finding that balance, right? Offense wins games. Defense wins championships.
Exactly. And you know what? One of the articles we have by Zach Harper, he summed it up perfectly. He said, and I quote, "Their defense is awesome. They have a lot of depth and talent. And their offense stinks."
Wow, he didn't hold back.
Nope, straight to the point. But he's right. The Rockets have everything you need to be successful. They just haven't figured out the offensive side of things yet.
Which brings up an interesting question. Could this whole NBA Cup experience actually be a good thing for the Rockets in the long run? Could these struggles actually force them to be more active in the trade market?
That's a really interesting thought, actually. They might realize they need to shake things up a little bit. Maybe bring in a veteran scorer who can help take some of the pressure off Jalen Green.
It's almost like they're at a crossroads, you know? Stick with the current roster and hope things start clicking, or make a bold move and try to speed up the process.
And with the trade deadline a few months away, they have some time to think about it.
Oh,
It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do.
no doubt. But, you know, while we're talking about interesting paths, can we talk about Isaiah Hartenstein's journey for a second? The guy's gone from being a backup to a key player on a playoff contender. It's a great story.
It really is. And it's a testament to his work ethic. He didn't let limited playing time get him down. He stayed ready. And when the opportunity came, he grabbed it with both hands.
He's proof that sometimes all you need is a chance.
100%. And he's making the most of it with OKC. The fans love him, too. He's become a real fan favorite.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see why. You know, speaking of fan favorites, I have to tell you this funny story. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing this post-game interview with Lisa Salters, right?
Yeah.
And you can hear his teammates in the background celebrating super loud.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, Shai just looks right at the camera and goes, "Shut up."
Oh, man, I saw that. It was hilarious. These guys are at the top of their game, but they're still just regular dudes, you know, getting annoyed by their friends just like the rest of us.
It makes them relatable. You mentioned earlier how loud the crowd was in Vegas. Was there anything else about the atmosphere that stood out to you?
You know, besides all the chanting and the booing, there was this energy in the arena. You could feel it. It felt like a huge event, even though it was a neutral site.
That's interesting. You'd think a neutral site crowd might be a little more laid back, but it sounds like they were really into it.
They were. And I think that shows how much the NBA Cup is growing. It's becoming a big deal, and the fans are treating it that way.
Yeah, it's not just some exhibition anymore. This is a serious competition. All right, I want to switch gears for a minute and talk about the coaching in this game. Mark Daigneault for OKC and Ime Udoka for Houston. Two young coaches who are already making a name for themselves.
Yeah, it was a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah.
Daigneault seemed to be one step ahead for most of the game, making adjustments that kept the Rockets guessing.
I agree. He's a really smart coach, and he's not afraid to try new things.
And his players seem to love playing for him. That's so important. You can have the best game plan in the world, but if your players don't trust you, it's not going to work.
Absolutely. And with Udoka, I think he deserves credit for the adjustments he made in the second half. The Rockets were right back in the game.
For sure. It was close. It's just too bad their offense couldn't get it going consistently.
It really is. Okay, we need to address the elephant in the room. Chet Holmgren, he's still recovering, but when he gets back, what kind of impact do you think he'll have on this OKC team?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
He could change everything for them. He's got the size, the length, the shooting. He could make them a completely different team.
Can you imagine him playing alongside SGA, Jalen Williams, Hartenstein?
It's scary, man.
Yeah.
Seriously scary.
Yeah.
The potential of this OKC team is through the roof.
It's wild to think about. All right, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. The undertrend, the Rockets' offensive issues, Isaiah Hartenstein's breakout season, and of course, the looming return of Chet Holmgren.
And we've seen what it's like to have these big games in Vegas. The energy, the fans, it's something else.
But our deep dive's not over yet. In part 3, we're going to take a look at some of your comments and predictions, explore some interesting what-ifs, and we'll give you our final thoughts on these NBA Cup semifinals.
It's going to be fun. Stay tuned.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time talking about the Thunder, the Rockets, the coaches, all the trends, even the craziness of that crowd in Vegas.
For sure.
But you know what I always love? Hearing what other fans have to say about all this.
Yeah, it's like getting a whole different perspective on things.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they notice things we miss, or they come up with these wild theories that are just fun to think about.
I love those.
So I was browsing some online forums and articles, and a few comments really jumped out at me.
Oh,
One person wrote, "I'm starting to think the Rockets are playing possum. They're tanking the cup on purpose so they can focus on the regular season."
whoa, that's a hot take.
Right. Do you think there's any chance they're actually doing that?
I really doubt it. I mean, these are professional athletes. They want to win every game.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about, what if they're playing the long game here, using the cup to test out different lineups, different strategies,
It's possible. Maybe they're using this tournament to experiment more than they would in the regular season.
Right.
But to intentionally lose? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't think so either, especially not with a coach like Ime Udoka.
Okay, here's another what if that's been making the rounds. What if the Rockets had kept James Harden?
Oh, man, now that's a what if I can get behind.
Right, imagine Harden in this Rockets offense.
It would be unstoppable.
Seriously, all that playmaking, all that scoring, it would take so much pressure off Jalen Green. And who knows, maybe they wouldn't even be having these offensive issues.
It's fun to think about.
It is. But at the end of the day, it's all just hypothetical.
Yeah, for sure. But that's part of what makes sports so fun, right? The what ifs, the possibilities.
Absolutely. Okay, before we wrap things up, we have to talk about the NBA Cup Final Thunder versus the Bucks. What a matchup.
It's going to be epic. You've got the young, high-flying Thunder led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then you have the Bucks, the veterans, the champs, led by Giannis.
It's a classic clash of styles. Who do you think has the edge?
Man, that's tough. I think the Bucks have the experience, but the Thunder have the momentum. They're hungry.
It's a real David versus Goliath story.
Exactly. And sometimes those underdog stories are the best ones.
For sure. I can't wait to see how it all plays out.
All right, to wrap up our deep dive, let's just zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. This NBA Cup has been a wild ride.
We've seen upsets, surprises, amazing individual performances.
So much talent on display.
The Thunder have shown everyone that they're a serious contender.
Brutal.
And the Rockets, well, they've got some tough questions to answer about their offense.
They do.
But one thing's for sure, this cup has brought a whole new level of excitement to the NBA.
100%. It's like a shot of adrenaline for the league.
It reminds us that basketball is more than just a game. It's a story.
With twists and turns and drama.
And we get to be a part of it, debating every call, analyzing every play, celebrating every win. Whether you're a diehard fan or just a casual viewer, this NBA Cup has something for everyone.
It's a celebration of everything we love about basketball.
And it shows us that anything is possible in this league.
Anything can happen.
So as we get ready for the Cup final, let's just embrace the excitement, expect the unexpected, and enjoy the ride.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that conversation going.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.